welcome to the Perceived Effort podcast. I'm John Weston, and today my guest is Emma Dunn. Emma is a triathlete and has had some really successful events that she's taken part in, and some really good achievements over the last few years. And I'm going to hand over to Emma now just to explain her background. Hi, Emma.
Hello, good morning. Thank you for having me. I don't come from an athletic background with my parents and siblings. As you know, I've got two children. And I was asked one day, randomly, if I wanted to take part as in a relay team at a sprint triathlon, tackling the swim discipline, something I've never done before. So I went ahead to that, completed the swim. A friend did the bike discipline, and another friend completed the run. We finished that, the three of us, and we said, let's book on. Let's do another one. So a couple of months later, there we all were, the three of us doing our own triathlon. Not our own. It was messy. It was messy, but we had a good time. And from that triathlon, I continued to do my sprint triathlons and decided that they weren't enough. The distance wasn't enough for me, not much of a challenge. So I skipped peak distance and went straight onto the half distance. And then from there, it's progressed onto an endurance athlete, which I feel is my area and what I get the most out of. Fast and furious.
You've done a half Ironman distance, and you've done 2 Ironman distances. That's a pretty hardcore endurance events. How did you find them?
The half, I went into it, just wanted to complete it and have a good time. There was no time set in there.
Half?
And I loved it. So it's with UK Triathlon, and it's called their Ultimate Half. So it's in Whitchurch. It's not a branded Ironman event. It's UK Triathlon, who I do a lot of my events with. It's their half. So it's called the Ultimate Half. So, yeah, I was adamant to get round that day. That was something I'd never done before.
What made you decide a half Ironman?
Well, I knew sprint wasn't enough, and I knew Olympic wouldn't be. I felt like I needed more of a mental challenge. So yeah, I skipped the Olympic. It would have been a great sort of training zone to accomplish, but I was just chasing the bigger dream, if you like, and that's all that was good enough for me. So I went for the half and loved it. I finished the event, and I walked straight up to the race director, and I said to him, I loved it. I am putting my name down for the full next year. That wasn't enough. That was a teaser.
So you did the half iron distance, and then the next year you did the full iron distance. Was there a big transition between the 2 distances in terms of training?
Yeah, in between the half, which was 2017, in 2018 was when I was heading for the full. But I got an injury in my knees. I suffer with IT band issues to a point I was advised. So I put a bit of a plea out, really, on social media. So that 2018, I completed the full swim and the full bike. So it's a full aqua bike for me. And that was a nice little introduction to the insights of the full distance. There was just a marathon to put on the end. So in terms of training, I felt really good then. I put the time in. We had the weather as well. The weather makes a massive difference, doesn't it?
It does.
If you get out there, get the miles in your legs in the sun, then that helps. So yeah, everything seemed to work that year.
What did you find the hardest part of training?
I don't struggle for motivation. I can, even if I've not got myself a trainer, I can get up and get out. When I've not had a personal trainer, the hardest part is making sure I'm not overtraining or undertraining. But time-wise, I guess I'm quite lucky with my children. I'm able to fit it in and around work. The hours are, you've got to commit. You're either doing it or you're not. You can't go into something like this half-hearted. You've got to work out. I've got a 13-hour week. Look at your plan and integrate that into your week. And you have to make those training sessions a priority, because if they're not, you're going to lose a couple of sessions a week. Add those up over your however many weeks you've got as a training plan, and you've lost a lot of time. But I think once you're in a routine and you've set your sessions into your day as a priority, and you just take day at a time, the weeks will add up, the months will add up, and you put the time and effort in, and you can walk into an event feeling pretty confident that you've done yourself justice. No matter how the day goes, you've done the hard work. The hard work is the training.
And it's all worth it once you cross that finish line. How did it feel when you finished your first full iron distance?
Oh, it was immense. I cried. I cried. I was chasing the time. I was never sort of going to win it. It was just about my own success and getting over that finish line. And at one point on the bike course, I didn't think I was going to make it. The bike course was changed 2 days before the event, and I'd been training on the other course, and I built confidence up. I knew where every bend was. I was confident with it, and then I was put onto a different course, and my head was messed up by it, and I stopped at one point and pulled into a lay-by, and I said to myself, you can't do this. What on earth are you going to say? Mentally you're not here. Physically I didn't feel I was there. And then I said to myself, look, just go and do another lap, come on. Then it was 4 laps that I had to do, 28 miles. So before I knew it, the second lap had been, third lap had been, and I was like, okay, we're there. All you've got to do now is run a marathon, which is something I'd never done before. The most mileage I'd worked up to was 14 miles. Again, I had IT band issues, which prevented me to sort of go on and do the training that was required. So it was a gamble that day. It was a case of just roll the dice and see how it goes, which I know is not how you should go into your first Ironman event. But for me, that was part of the buzz, the unknown. And I pulled it off. And to get to that finish line with all that sort of unknown over me, it was amazing. Absolutely amazing. I cried and could not believe what I'd achieved. Something I'd never thought I'd get round. And as you know, at the time when I mentioned to my husband that's what I wanted to do, he pretty much laughed and said to me, do you realise how big a task this is? Do you know what's involved? Time, your mental strength, and I knew it's what I wanted to do. I wanted to give it a go, and here we are. I've done it, and crossing that finish line, it's an immense feeling.
It's amazing how kind of that point to prove mentality can really get you to grip hold of the opportunity to demonstrate that you can do it. And what you said about adversity and kind of unknowns. I think we've all faced kind of changes to courses or changes to wetsuit swims and things like that make you feel a little bit nervous, but that focus and that kind of just breaking it down, I think it's important, isn't it? I think with an Ironman distance, with the amount of training you have to do, I think you have to do these little tricks on your mind just to get through it. Do you find that with the volume of training that you do you have to set yourself goals?
Each week at a time. Yeah, I think if you can sit and look at your training plan for the week and you know what's coming, mentally you're prepared for it. I'd say the biggest challenge for me is the long bike rides. Once you've got a 5-hour bike ride on the plan, completing that on your own is a bit of a minefield and a bit of a task to get your head around. I have been suggested to by friends that, you know, I should go out with other people, break the 5 hours up. But to me, I think I'm very much in the mindset of and stopping off for a coffee and cake or whatever, you know, people like to do on these long rides. On the day, you are mentally there on your own, and all you've got is you, your mind, and concentration. So those long bike rides, I'd say, are the most challenging, but the most rewarding once you've completed them, you know, and then you drop your bike off and it's a quick change and you're off to your brick run and you're into a different zone then. But yeah, I'd probably say out all the training, it's in the end, it's the long rides that mentally challenge me.
When you first came into triathlon, was there one of the which of the disciplines did you find the hardest to kind of really do the training for?
Running, because I just seem to have these injuries in my knee. Mentally, I guess I've let myself down in areas where I've not focused. So for swimming, for example, we all know I've got this huge irrational fear of fish, but I keep going back to the water and I keep training, and I've seen a lot of progression in my swim. It's done a huge turnaround. Last year on my second Ironman, I was second female out of the water. That in itself for me was a winner that day.
Yeah, absolutely.
The cycling afterwards, that's great, but the running seems to be the hardest part for me, and I keep tackling it, and one day it will come. It's just one of those I've got to work really hard at. However, when I'm there and I'm in a nice little training block and things are going well and I feel great, then it's the best discipline going. I can't say that I've got a favourite.
What do you find the hardest about the running? Because I'm exactly the same as you. My running is the one thing that I procrastinate about and make excuses about. But what do you find the hardest about running compared to the others?
I guess I've looked at my technique and I don't feel my technique is great. And this thing that I've developed of, I need to walk and take a rest break. You know, my legs are okay, but it's just a bad habit that I've gotten into. And I've worked hard this year to get over that. And my coach and I worked with a strategy to sort of overcome that. And we got there. You know, I was running for 2 hours, no walk break. I'm in the right heart rate zone. So it's there. Yeah, I just want more from myself. So I'm at the bottom at the minute. I just need to keep trying it and raise the ceiling on it, if you like.
Do you think a lot of it's mental, the mental side of things? Yeah.
With running, it is bad habits that I need to break free from. Starting again, that's what I've got to do with running. Just got to start again. Go to some clubs, run with people, and just break away from this cycle that I've managed to get myself into. I do like training on my own because if I've got a set plan, I want to do that. I don't want the distraction. However, I see the benefits of running with other people. You know, if you talk about what you want from the beginning, then yeah, it can benefit you massively. So I've just highlighted one area as I can improve my running.
So training for an Ironman isn't for the light-hearted, really. It's quite an intense process. Can you just walk through a typical week? You know, in the middle of your training plan, what your week looks like across the disciplines?
Yeah, I'd say I've got a 6-day training plan for the week, and that will be a combination of a bike in the morning with a run in the evening, or a swim in the morning and a run in the afternoon, in the evening. So there's a time between them both. There would be one brick session a week, and that would be off the back of a long bike ride. The brick session, not necessarily my longest run, but just a decent 50 minutes my legs. Friday, would be a long run. So it's a mixed bag for the week, as long as you're prepared to do something in the morning, something in the evening, and then you've got your 2 long days towards the end of the week. So you've got your long run, and then you've got your long bike ride with a brick session. And as I said before, if you know you've got these coming and you can tailor your day into it, it just becomes routine and habit. You might have to go out of bed a little bit earlier. Your evenings might run in a little bit later. You've got to be thinking about fuel when you're going to eat. A lot of people eat their evening meal at 6 o'clock. When you've got a family, that's tea time. You've got a job to do, so you've got to factor that in.
Do you find you have to adapt your plan?
You've got to manage your time very well. Sorry,
do you find you have to adapt your plan and move things around a lot, or do you have quite a good structure?
Triathlon is a big part of my world, so my world has to work around the triathlon training. So my family are aware of that. Obviously, they come first, but this is what I do, and there's a lesson to be learned from all of us. Doing this. This is an unachievable goal for some people, and sacrifices have to be made. So I try my very best not to compromise anybody and what they're doing and what they need from me in terms of being a mother. But ultimately, that they know this is a priority, and it has to fit into the day. So it doesn't always go well. I'm not saying it's easy. Life crops up, emergencies crop up. I'm self-employed. It's not easy, but I think if you've got those foundations there of a good routine, then it pretty much just falls into place.
So for those that are looking to get into triathlon but perhaps put off by that, the amount of training they have to do you have any tips about how you manage your week and how you manage to get the volume done without impacting other aspects of your life?
I would say getting out of bed a little bit earlier helps. I am not a fan of this. I've not been very good, and it's something I have had to change my mindset on very much just this year. Getting out of bed an hour earlier to squeeze it in. And that is your compromise. If you want this, you'll find a way. It's not easy, and when that alarm goes off and it's raining outside and you've got a long run to go and do, sometimes your own motivation isn't there. But if you remember your why and this is what you want, you'll find a way. But time management is key, and preparing your stuff. You know what it's like as a triathlete. We have bags and equipment. If you've got your stuff ready the night before by the door, and all you've got to do is roll out of bed, have your breakfast, whatever you need. If your stuff is there, it's one last thing to think about, and you can get on and get the job done.
I think that's really important. That aspect of the why and the making yourself accountable is quite an important point. I find myself. I find mornings incredibly difficult. I hate training in the morning. I'd do anything to not train in the morning, but I always kind of say in my head how I feel if I was just to not complete the session, and the fact I've got to do it later and try to fit it in later. So it is. I mean, it is hard. I think running, and especially in the winter months, is particularly a difficult thing to do early in the morning. But that why element, I think, is a really fundamental question. I think it's a really good point in terms of always keep reminding yourself why you're doing it, why you're doing the triathlon, why you want to complete an Ironman or half Ironman, and that often will answer the question. It'll either make you stop, or it'll make you more determined. But either way, the resolve you have to get through that training, I think, is really important.
Yeah, I've got a lot of friends that are not into triathlons or sports, and I get asked that question all the time. Why why are you doing this? How do you manage 5 hours on the bike? How do you get up so early? You know, it's every day, it's repetitive. How? Why? Because I've got a goal and I've got a dream, and it's something I'm emotionally attached to. It's not for the glory of anybody else. It's my own personal progression, my own goal. And if you don't have that, then you're not going to win.
It's a lifestyle thing as well, isn't it? It's also to do with lifestyle. Probably a slight endurance addiction as well.
Certainly that. You know, I've been on holidays, and I've had to take time out to fit in my triathlon training, and that might be a case again of getting up early and you're back before the family are up, and you've not been missed, and you've had a good session under your belt, and you can crack on with the day feeling like you've got a good training session in you. It's an accomplishment.
Was it a holiday? You went to Lanzarote, didn't you, recently? It seemed like ages ago.
Yeah, it does. Yes, I went with my sister and my mum, and they just wanted a holiday, and I said, just leave the location to me. And it was actually I saw Passion Fit there a couple of years ago, and I'd sort of put that destination on the map of somewhere I wanted to go to. So when the holiday was left to me to organise, it was off to Sands Beach Resort with my mum and sister, and there's a little bit of a triathlon set up there.
They thought they were getting a holiday, and then but as everyone knows, Lanzarote isn't a holiday for triathletes. It's an excuse. Well,
they did know this, but you know what? They got the weather, and my mum and sister actually joined in. They get up in the morning, and I had to do a 10k run that morning, sorry, and they got up and did a 5k themselves. We went to Pilates. Brilliant. We tried things. That my sister swam with me one day. They got stuck in.
You inspired them into fitness on a holiday.
Yeah, I can't say they've continued with it. I mean, my sister is training for a half marathon at the moment, but yeah, that we all had a very good time. There was a lot to be taken from that holiday.
So you've qualified for the ETU and ITU championships, which was obviously postponed due to the pandemic. How did you qualified? Is it for the aqua bike? Is that right?
Yes, my first Ironman, full distance triathlon, if you like, qualified me because I came second in my age group. And I was inspired by Kate Jaden, if you like. She sort of presented this opportunity to me and said, you know, maybe it's something people should have a go at. Not enough people put their names forward, you know. So one day I just thought I'd put my times in and I'd give this a go. And little did I know that I'd qualify, and they took me.
Fantastic.
They've accepted my times. So half distance aqua bike and the World Championships. Almere should be taking place next week in Austria, but Team GB have said they're not taking a team out for obvious reasons, COVID, and there's still a big question mark whether the World Championships will go ahead this year because of COVID. However, my time will be honoured and carried over to 2022 at the half distance European Championships. I think they've said we're not honouring your times anymore. You're pretty much out. You've got to re-qualify.
That's a shame.
So that is a shame, because that would be an amazing place to compete, if only for the view. So yeah, that's a bit of a heart wrencher, but there's other years we can still qualify and aim at it again. Yeah.
No, that's fantastic. What a fantastic achievement. So good luck with that, and it makes it worthwhile, doesn't it, when you qualify for something like that?
Yeah, it's obviously it's unknown. I've never competed in anything like it before. However, you know, it's going to be something I can't even explain it. I don't even know how to visualize it. I've just got to train harder for it, which that is a challenge in itself.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll be fine. Do you have any tips for the listeners that perhaps are considering starting a triathlon? I'm always being approached by people that want to do triathlons. I think lots of people, runners and cyclists, look at triathlons and the challenge they present, but a lot of them also say that they can't swim, so have been put off by the training volume or needing to do the training. Have you got any tips for anyone that's perhaps new to the sport, planning to come into triathlon, that are really important, perhaps the key ones that they should consider?
I think, like you've just identified there, I think people have they want to go into triathlons, but they've got a fear of something. I think the first place is to identify what it is you want to know about, and use the internet. I mean, look at Instagram, look at the community we have there. We have bags of experience and knowledge there, and people want to help people. We want to see each other progress. So, for example, if there's an area that you're a bit you're stuck on or you're nervous about, which, like you've just said, swimming seems to be the biggest factor. Find somebody to swim with. Find an open water event that you can go to and have some fun with it. That, I'd say, swimming for me was my off-putting factor because of fish. And I knew that if I wanted to go out there and compete at a different level, I needed to swim in open water. So I booked myself onto the Manchester Great North Swim for the experience. I didn't go with anybody. I went on my own, and I was crying getting into the water. I was that scared. But it was something I knew I needed to overcome. And I shared my experience on social media, and I received lots of advice, which is fantastic. So yeah, the swimming, I would say 70% of people wanting to try triathlons turn around and say, the swimming puts me off. I can't swim.
Yeah.
I was the same. I watched YouTube. Okay, I watched YouTube probably every week. I took notes from it. I filmed myself swimming so I could see my technique. I went to a swim masterclass. You just find ways to learn. So if you want to do this, you will find a way. You've just got to tackle it and ask. Just ask people. We've got the experience. We've got the knowledge, and we can help.
There's a very strong community, I think, in the triathlon, especially on Instagram, Twitter. There's a lot of people. I've never known a community so friendly and so willing to help people. It's. I always think that if you want to do a triathlon, go along and watch a triathlon and just see what it's like, and then perhaps learning to swim. Do a sprint distance. I had never done an open water swim before I did my first sprint distance triathlon, and so the first time I was in a lake swimming was the first time, and so it was only 800 meters, but you learn a lot. I think, especially around kind of positioning and also not panicking about kind of sighting. But I think it's a really important point around the element of community and kind of just there's a wealth of information. I mean, the whole purpose of this podcast is to try to give people more information about triathlon. But you made a really good point there about kind of just speaking to people. Don't be afraid to text someone and ask their opinion, especially around swimming. It is, I think, sometimes an excuse for kind of not wanting to do it, but it's a valid one. It's a valid excuse. People usually have run or cycled and not swum, or have swam, but very, very long time ago.
Yeah, so swimming is just one of those where you've just got to go and do it. You can overthink swimming, I think, at times.
Yeah.
And it's like, say, if you can go and watch a triathlon, it'll either light a little fire in your belly to inspire you to get going, or it won't.
I think doing a triathlon can ignite that fire. I think I remember saying to myself before my first triathlon, I'm never going to do one of these again because I was so nervous. And as soon as I finished, I signed up that afternoon to do it again the following year.
Yeah. That buzz is huge.
Are there any things you wished you had known before you started training that you now know that are a little bit of a hack towards making life easier?
The massive sort of battle I'd say that I've got is nutrition. That is still a massive unknown area for me. It's a grey area that I'm trying different sort of fueling, for example. This is something I wish I knew a lot more about. There's a massive science behind it, isn't there? And I'm not going to say that I can pick something up overnight. It's trial and error. So yeah, I would jump forward and say not necessarily the swim, bike, run elements. It's what feeds it. That I'd like to know a bit more about, and something I'm gonna look into. I don't think it'll happen too much this year, but next year really look into it, because it's how you perform, isn't it? Your fuel.
Again, I think it's another big topic that people contact me about in terms of fueling and being able to make sure they've had enough nutrition and not too much nutrition. It's that balance, isn't it, between making sure that you've had enough and you take it at the right time. But yeah, as you say, it's trial and error. And I think we've all had situations either on the bike or out on runs where we just feel a little bit flat because we perhaps have ignored that a little bit too much.
Yeah. I think for me the biggest challenge is the weight with it. I found that I've put weight on, can you believe, as an endurance athlete over times for not getting my fuel right. This year weight has fallen off me. I've not done anything different, I don't think, but for some reason this year the weight's coming off and I've still been able to perform. So that's an element side of it as well. It's something I didn't expect to be weight gaining, when I'm doing long runs, long bike rides and long swims. And quite often people say, if I've been vocal about my weight, how are you putting weight on when you do all this sport? It's not that simple, is it? The fueling aspect of it, you've really got to get it right. So that is something I wish I knew a lot more about, which is something I've got to work on.
Also having that kind of holistic view of kind of what you've got in the training plan over and what you need to then anticipate needing fuel for is a really important point. And I think it's one of those things that people aren't necessarily going to prioritize when they first come into triathlon. I think actually the first thing is just getting used to the training. I think it's over time you start to realize that how important that, as you say, the nutrition side of things is almost like a forced discipline in its own right, because you won't perform if you don't feel right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've found that out. I've been on long bike rides and I've not kept my hydration up. At the minute, I would say I probably take a sip of water or whatever I've got in my water every 10 minutes. I'm having a little sip, just so it's not, taking a big gulp and it lands on your belly and you feel a bit sluggish. I would advise with a long ride, especially with hydration, every 5 minutes. Same with your food, just a little nibble every 10 minutes, not big chunks of stuff, just barely a chew. So it's just a constant drip all the time, a mixture of your carbohydrates, whatever you need. That has worked for me. my second Ironman, I got off the bike not feeling like I'd just eaten a buffet. As I did the previous year, I was able to sort of go into a run feeling, pretty well fueled. So that would be my advice. It's just trial and error. And when you find something that works for you, keep it. It doesn't matter what other people do or what textbook says. If that works for you, it works, and use it.
That's really good. It's a really good point. And I think we'll be following up on that during the podcast. We've got someone who's a nutritionist who's coming onto the podcast in a few weeks' time. So that'd be good. Do you have any tips on essential equipment? I mean, I think as triathletes we collect lots of gadgets and lots of pieces of equipment, and some of them are necessary, some of them are not necessary at all. But we reassure ourselves that it's an investment we should make. Is there any essential equipment that you would you could highlight that you think is kind of essential?
I don't think there's anything specific outside of the normal essentials of a wetsuit, swimming goggles, some sort of device to track your workout, your bikes and what have you. What I would say is that I see there's a lot of pressure out there to have the latest gadget, the newest equipment, the best bike. Everybody has their own budget, and I'd say stick within your budget. If you need to buy something, buy it within your budget, and don't feel pressured. When I bought my first bike, it cost me £250 from Halford. It was a road bike, and I completed quite a few triathlons on it. And I had a good time, as you know. I've upgraded now, but that's because that's come because of my desire to wear Live gear and ride Live gear. It's a brand that I love. But in terms of a specific gadget, maybe your mindset. Make sure your mindset's so it's not.
I was going to say it's really important that kind of that element of kind of questioning why you need something. I think we've all been there with regards to bikes, and I've still got the same bike that I started my triathlon journey on. I was considering an upgrade this year, but I've decided just to stick with it because it's not going to give me any gains. It's probably just a mental thing in terms of thinking that I need a new piece of equipment. But that's a really good point. And I think anyone coming into the sport, triathlon is an expensive sport if you let it. It doesn't have to be. Yeah. If you're doing a sprint distance, you can get around on a road bike. There's no problem with that. But there are a lot of things on social media that kind of inspire people into making purchases perhaps they don't need. There's the Garmin watches or the data that you need, but some would question some of that is necessary at first. It's really about kind of making sure that you've got the essentials to get you through the sport.
Yeah, I mean that's how I started. I got the basics of the basics, and it was enough. In fact, I've still got the wetsuit that I bought 4 years ago, and it's my only wetsuit. I've never upgraded, and I see a lot out there that I think, oh, that'd be a nice wetsuit, that'd be nice, but this one does the job, and maybe it's my lucky wetsuit. I don't know.
I'm exactly the same. I've got the same wetsuit from when I started my first triathlon, and I'd like to get a new wetsuit, but not for any specific reason. I don't think I'm going to get any benefit from it.
Yeah, I would say if anybody can suggest a decent pair of open water swimming goggles that don't steam up, even if you've tried products to help not steam up, if anybody's found anything that think actually these are the best ones I've ever had, then please, share, because me and swimming goggles, I've tried lots of techniques to help them not steam up, but once they steam up, they've steamed up. maybe that's just part of it, something you have to accept.
I've done exactly the same as you. I've tried lots of different types of brands and different types of goggles. The ones that work for me are the Rocco X1s, and they're slightly bigger. They're not massive ones. They're not, but they're the only ones I've had where they haven't let water in, or there's nothing worse than getting into an open water swim and suddenly realizing the seal on your goggles isn't holding. You've got all of that often dirty water getting into your eyes, which isn't great, especially if you wear contact lenses. It's quite dangerous.
Yeah. That's me.
Yeah, but if anyone listening in on the podcast has any tips, message down below, and let us know. Let us know if there's anything that you think are decent goggles for open water swimming. That'd be great. So just wrapping things up, Emma, just in terms of your goals and your plans for this year, what's in the diary, and what's the next thing beyond the Ironman? You're still focusing on Ironman distance, I presume, but what's the next challenge?
I'm actually completing an Olympic triathlon tomorrow. It's just down the road from me. I've only signed up for it this week just to go and have a little bit of fun, and it's on my doorstep. And that's the longest distance they offer for this weekend. It should have been in Birmingham, or it should have been hosted in Birmingham, but due to restrictions, they're hosting it at Alderford Lake. So that's tomorrow. And then I've got the World Championships in September for the aquabike. 4 weeks after the championships, I do have a place for the London Marathon, and I'm thinking I'm going to go for that. I thought about postponing it till next year, but I think it'd be something else to look forward to. It just complicates training, because if you've just got swim and bike on the plan, then that's brilliant. Add run into it, it just messes things up. So I've not thought it through properly yet and decided which is more important to me, in terms of just going straight out and heading for the championships, which would be the obvious choice. But running the London Marathon would be great as well. But I'm desperate next year to go back and do this UK Triathlon Ultimate, and chase a time. So leading on from the World Championships, I don't know how I'm going to do it. I'm without a trainer at the moment. I've got a few challenging personal challenges coming up in my life, so priority has to change maybe a little. But I want to progress now. I've proved that I can do a long course triathlon. I want to be better at it. That is going to be the ultimate goal. I may not get that next year. It might be a longer term goal, but there's a time that I've got in my mind, and it's an hour off my best time, and that'll be my why after September.
Fantastic.
Chasing a pattern. Yeah. There'd be some 10k swims I want to go and do, but they seem to, the dates always fall around when I've got
other
another
events.
event. Yeah, a real shame. So it may be that I'm doing a 10k by myself in Alderford Lake one day.
Why not? Why do you need a race? Why do you need a race? Race event to do that?
And that's what I keep telling myself. I've got some water up there that when I'm settled in it, I'm comfortable and I can do it. So that is in the back of my mind. So if anybody's listening and they would like to join me at Alderford Lake at some point, to join me for a couple of laps, more than welcome to come along and join me, and we'll have a good time with it.
Yeah, no, I'm also keen to do I did a 5k swim a few years ago and I loved it. I'm keen to do it again, but as you say, it's on the same day as another event. It's not going to work. But well, thank you. That's been really, really interesting. Some of the tips that you gave were great, and I'm sure the listeners will message if there's anything else that they want to they want tips on. But thank you for your time today. It's been really good, and I wish you all the luck with the World Championship, and to get a place on the London Marathon, I think probably answers that why question, because most people, struggle to get a place in the London Marathon. That would be a dream, I think, for most.
Yeah.
Not for me. I don't like marathons. Thank you very much for your time. It's been great speaking to you.
Yeah, good luck with your podcast. I think this is a great thing for the community, especially if, like you say, there's people out there wanting to get involved, or people that are involved and they've got a few questions and they can take something from these podcasts. Then that's brilliant. It's a fantastic thing to do for the community.
I think the journey I've had in terms of
if anybody has any questions on anything that they want to ask me, you're more than welcome to contact me. My Instagram page, and I'm always available to speak.
Yeah, I'll put your details in the link on the YouTube and on the podcast. As I said, the purpose of the podcast is really to give people some information and to inspire them into triathlon. I found triathlon a great way of maintaining my fitness, and the community has been great. So I want to give a little bit back to the community by doing these interviews and podcasts. Yeah, it's brilliant. Well done, you.
Thanks, Emma.